Welcome to episode 2 of the Ferraro Method podcast. So within episode 2, I have a very special guest with us, one of my clients I've been working with for the past few months. And it is a story of someone who's come to me with really, really bad back pain. And we're going to show you and tell you how we've got from where she started to where she is now. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Claire. So Claire, talk us through your original history, like how everything first started, and then we're going to go from where you first started to starting with me and how it went. Yeah, by the way, Rosa has a massive obsession with Claire, so this is going to get interrupted numerous times with Rosa demanding fusses.
It's all good, it's all good. Yes, so originally came to see you, I think I kind of jumped in on one of your sessions and was like, I need to talk to you about my back, because I just couldn't sit down at that point. I couldn't sit unless I was like firmly on the floor and my legs were kind of out. I couldn't sit on a chair properly. Getting up was really, really difficult, and it was just all across my lower back, just constant pain. Turning over when I'm laying down, being able to get up from laying down. I had to kind of turn over on my side and kind of push myself up. And it had been a long-term thing. It had just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I'd seen numerous people about it, and no one could kind of give me a firm answer. And I think when I finally reached out to you was when I had seen someone who said, it's never going to get any better. It's a problem with your vertebrae. Yeah. And I think hearing those words of it's never going to get better, you just have to deal with it. I think a lot of people just take and kind of go, okay, this is my life now. And that's one thing that I really pride myself on working on and trying to get through to people, is that doesn't need to be the case. It doesn't need to be your life. You can't live in pain for the rest of your life. And I think I remember seeing you at the gym, kind of like hobbling over. And I just remember walking up to you going, are you okay? What's going on, mate? Yeah.
And from there, it's been a very interesting journey. But we've now got to the point where when was the last time you kind of felt that back pain?
Interestingly, I can't remember. So I would say a good couple of months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just trying to kind of give everyone an idea of how severe the back pain was. How would you, what was the limitations of it?
I couldn't do anything. Right. So I'd kind of resigned myself to the fact that I was never going to play netball again, which I loved doing and had done for a little while and had to give up because the pain got so bad. Getting down on the floor to play with my little boy, I would always have to kind of sit up on a chair because I would be worried about getting back up off the floor. Being in the office at work, so having to sit for a long period of time, it was just awful. Then having to get up and move to somewhere else, I'd have to leave meetings a little bit early so I could get to where I needed to be. Just everything all the time, the whole of my life.
She's making herself comfortable. Of course she is. It's her house. We're
Exactly.
just lucky to live with her. And obviously you can't go through the rest of your life with that. What kind of other treatment and help did you get for your back? So
originally, I saw a chiropractor who cracked my back a bit and said, you've got a sacroiliac sprain, do these exercises, you'll be fine. And it was just some strange stretches that just really didn't help much at all. I saw him a couple of times and nothing changed. And every time I went back, he was like, we'll just do this again and then it'll be fine. So I gave up with that in the end. Eventually saw a specialist who diagnosed that my vertebrae are wearing. It's an age thing.
Degenerative back. I always get this word messed up. Degenerative back disease.
That's it.
Yep.
And one of my discs was starting to bulge, but shouldn't have been giving me the pain that I was in. So couldn't really say what was causing it, what wasn't causing it. The only thing that they then offered was a steroid injection into my back.
Yep.
Which I had, and took the pain away pretty well, although I could still feel it. I was still, when I went into that injection, I was really hopeful that I was going to wake up and it was going to be just completely gone. I was going to be fine, and I wouldn't need to worry about it anymore, but that wasn't the case. So I came out of that, and I think I remember saying to you at the time, I was like, but it still really hurts, and I'm really worried that this is it now. But yeah, that was in July last year.
Yeah. So like, here's the thing, and I never want anyone to think I'm ever trying to slag off any other healthcare professional, osteos, physios, chiropractors, because they all do a beautiful job. But one thing that everyone has in common, and it's basically is educated guessing. We're looking at the symptoms, we're looking at what is possibly wrong with Claire, we're looking at the positioning, scans if you have access to them, and going, okay, this plus this equals this is what we may need to do to fix it. Sometimes we get it wrong. I've got it wrong numerous times. Sometimes other people get it wrong. But what we're trying to do is give you all the information and tools necessary to get you better. And that is like the passion and the goal. And that is the coffee machine about to turn itself off.
Yep.
Fantastic timing, that one is.
I wonder what that noise was.
Right, so let's wait for that to stop. That's Alice's fault, okay? That's 100% Alice's fault. So let's go through the beginning. So whenever I get a client that comes in with me, we always do movement and testing drills. So I personally believe that it's irresponsible to ever train someone without actually first seeing how their body works and how their body moves. Because let's say, for example, I programmed you back squats for whatever reason, whatever my logic was at that point in time. But we noticed that within your testing drills, your hips don't move. The likelihood of that back pain getting, a lot worse is going to be so much higher. So testing drills are really important. And when we did your testing drills, we noticed that the way that your left hip externally rotated was fantastic. The way that you internally rotated on the left side, 4 out of 10. On your right side, right hip external rotation, really good. On your right side, internal rotation, did not move an inch. It did not move at all, okay? So right hip, right internal rotation was absolutely awful. And the pain was predominantly on your right side, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always been on my right side.
So we knew that the problem had to be located to there. Alongside your testing drills, we did thoracic mobilization, so how your spine rotated from left to right. Right side, there was pain as well.
Yep.
The reason why I'm looking over to my right every single time, for those watching on YouTube, my laptop's over there. And again, on the squat test, we noticed that your hip was very unstable, was very wobbling. So we basically knew that the problem had to be located within the acetabellum, where the hip goes into the pelvis. So that's what we worked on. How did you kind of like feel hearing like a completely different thing to what you'd heard before?
I think I just kept throwing things at you, like, and this has happened, and that's happened, and this has happened, and you were like, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. So it was nice to have that reassurance.
Yeah.
So I think after failing that test spectacularly, which is how I think I badged it, I did then reveal to you that I had like managed to fracture both of my ankles running, and always had knee trouble and things like that. And you were kind of like, yeah, that it's all going to be related.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, so whenever a client comes into me with any form of pain, we always look above and below. We look around the area. Because let's say your hip starts to hurt. Why? Claire's a mother, so the hip pain and back pain could actually be related to childbirth. It could be. But when we heard about the ankle issues and the knee issues, when I think, okay, your gait cycle's probably been thrown off. You've probably had to bias one side, which probably left some issues in the hip and the pelvis. This could potentially be the problem. So within your training, we had to very much biased single leg work. I don't think we've actually loaded both legs together, bar recently. And so what we started off with, going, okay, so that right hip does not move. So how do we get it moving? What is the muscles responsible for that movement? So we started looking at the glute med. Then that started moving, so again, the glutes fired up a little bit better. Pain started to decrease then. I don't want to say rapidly, but we started rapidly.
Yeah, it was quite quick.
Tell me even more. Fantastic. Yeah, rapidly, great.
Yeah, it definitely was.
How did you feel starting to exercise that first? Because when we first started, it was very much, I can't sit down.
Yeah.
And then there's me going, yeah, split squats.
Do you know?
Hold on to that weight, you'll be fine. Go for it. If you die, you die.
The most terrifying thing was when I first got there, that first session, and you were like, right, we're going to lay on your back and you're just going to literally move your legs from side to side. And that was terrifying because that was the kind of thing I'd always had loads of pain doing.
Yeah.
So just getting over that first hurdle, I think, was probably one of the key things. And actually that exercise, even to this very day, is something that I try and do every day because it's what eases any stiffness that I have.
Yeah.
So from then on, I think it was just trying not to worry about hurting myself, because in my mind, I'm like, well, that's going to hurt. If I do that, it's going to hurt. And it hasn't so far. There's been some muscle stiffness and stuff, but not the pain that I was feeling before.
Yeah, and that is absolutely, again, phenomenal. Like, oh, all right, buddy. Conscious how important it is, and you can also appreciate how great it is when the pain finally goes away. So when I do work with people with injuries, okay, mate, go on up. When I do work with people with injuries, the beginning phase is what I would call. I was going to give it a name, but I haven't got one anymore. But basically, what we first try to do is build confidence up within the body. We try to get the pain levels to drop, and we try to build confidence up. So if Claire feels so scared and so protective over her body, the likelihood of her wanting to train harder in the future is going to be so much more diminished, because you're going to be scared of something in your back going ping.
Yeah.
Whereas if we spend the first 4 or 5 months doing slightly lower intensity work, getting you feel stronger and fitter, getting to the point where you don't really feel your back pain anymore, you're then going to feel so much more confident within your body. Mm-hmm. So then we then start pushing the bigger, riskier exercises, you're not so scared. So even though we spent about 4 or 5 months doing the gentler, rehabby, more comfortable stuff, when we went into a second version of the program and I introduced deadlifts, your face was like, no, dear God, no. Like you're quite scared of it.
Yeah.
But we got there. No, I'm going on a massive tangent. Go back to kind of like the beginning of how we first started. So in the initial program, it was very much glute emphasis, because what we noticed is when the hip was refusing to move on the right side, usually, again, I'm going to say the word usually, case is different from person to person, it was the glute med that was not firing properly. So what I needed to do is get the glute med firing. So within the prep drills, which Claire just mentioned beforehand, 2 exercises, which was an active hip rotation, so swaying hips to side, creating space within your spine, creating space within your pelvis. Second one, getting the glute med fired up with a glute med activation. Now this is going to create space within the pelvis. It's going to get the glute med fired up more, which is then going to improve Claire's ability to rotate. So when we then trained in a way to purposely get the glutes fired up, to purposely create more space within her pelvis, that then decreased pressure on her spine, which then made her lower back feel so much better.
Yep.
And it all started off, a big one that we used it's a traditional bodybuilder exercise, and that's Bulgarian split squats. And everyone hates them. But a really good thing about them, for those watching at home on YouTube, when you've got your pelvis sits like that. When you split squat, your pelvis does that. And what it does is it helps create space within your pelvis. And because we did it unilaterally, it meant that you could not hide any possible limitations or mobility issues. Because what we noticed is every single time you did a rep, your knee would wobble in. Every single one.
Always.
She got so angry with her knee. I've never had a client scream at her knee before going, why are you doing this to me?
Because I was telling it, I was like, in my head, I'm like, right, okay, just literally be straight, be like, and then every time it would just kind of go in and I would wobble around, and it was really frustrating.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me trying to offset anything, it was just doing it, and it was just really annoying.
Patience isn't your strong point, is it? I think you noticed as well that you found it easier to squeeze your glute on your left side, but you really struggled to squeeze your right butt cheek.
Yep.
And it was, it took a lot of effort to get to the point where you could actually properly contract it.
Yeah. Those first couple of sessions, I pushed everything through my thigh, and really, I always listen to what your trainer says, but I was kind of going, I think I know better because I don't want to be in pain. So it was like, right, I'll just push it through my leg and it'll be fine. And it isn't fine, that hurts.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, a lot of the time with people when they do exercise and training, they think about the movement. And let's say, for example, they do a bicep curl. And that's probably the easiest one for people to think of. They think up and down. They think they're just curling the arm. They don't think about bicep, squeeze, or shorten, lengthen. When doing split squats, you're probably thinking down and up.
Yep.
Whereas what I think about when I try to get my clients, I think about when doing movements is going, okay, what is actually working? So the cues were heel, big toe, dribbling into the ground. That creates stability, that creates force. And also when you do that, we get some of the muscles like in the calf and in the quads fired up and the glutes fired up as well. And then the cues were inhale down. So we control the breathing, which means your core is going to be braced. And then at the bottom, it was glute lengthened, contract your glutes, use your glute to drive yourself back up to the top. So it very much was cues throughout the entire thing to make you realize what you actually need to do and how to do it. Because just me shouting, squeeze your glute, isn't very helpful.
You did a lot.
Which I did a lot. But it's not very helpful because if you don't know how to squeeze your glutes, what's that going to do? So I remember when I was teaching some other PTs about giving cues within personal training sessions, we were talking about how to brace your core. And they said, okay, I was like, how would you get a client to brace your core? And their response was, imagine being punched in the stomach. I was like, right, okay. How many people know how it feels to get punched in the stomach? Not that many. So what's a more relative cue? What does everyone know how to do? Well, everyone knows how to breathe. Everyone can breathe in, everyone can breathe out. It's like, okay. So if I get someone to focus on inhaling down and then exhaling up, of course it's changed from movement to movement. When you breathe out, your core, your abs contract. So now by focusing on that during movement, I'm getting Claire to control her breathing, which means controlling her abs. So now if I cue to her, breathe out, in this particular way, you know that will get your core fired up. Now your core is so much more braced. And that's a really good way of doing things. So what else? So we did that. We did the glute work. We got your glutes fired up. Pain started to decrease. Alongside that, you wanted to get a stronger upper body. Because here's the thing. If you're in pain, you can still train hard, even during the rehabby phase. So the way that I tend to approach things is this safe. Let's use Claire's example here because, you're here. Claire had had back pain. So that means we need to rehab that, I need to protect that. But what can you train hard and what can you train efficiently? Well, your shoulders and chest is fine. So let's bury that into the ground, shall we? And so we pushed a lot of load through her chest and through your shoulders. And we got to the point where you now felt strong. And this is the thing, is when you have pains, you probably sitting at home probably feel like you're made out of glass. You can't really do A, B, C, D, E. You probably feel like you're getting weak. So what I needed Claire to do as well is build confidence in her back, but make you feel strong again. And that's what we did. And you did not like me for that.
Well, I think part of it is confidence as well, because whenever you're like, right, we're going to try this and this is going to be fun, I think, no, it's not. That looks really hard. And I think getting over that and thinking, actually, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then being really surprised when I do it. And I still do that now. So.
But you want to have that fun with it. You want to have that enjoyable with it. You want to feel strong, but you also kind of want to feel that, I don't know if I can and can't do it. It's a trusting within me. If you didn't trust me and I was like, yeah, do this, it wouldn't go very well. But it's also trusted in your body to know that you can handle this stuff and you can do it. So we incorporated quite a few neutral dumbbell presses. What I also did as well for Claire is indirectly worked her lower back so that we could get things a little bit strong, but also not scare her. So we did a lot of single arm rows. And when you do single arm rows, your QL and spine erectors, so muscles either side of your lower back and kind of run up your spinal column, are working. They're stabilizing, they're engaging. So if I told Claire, we're going to do this exercise to work your lower back, you would have gone, nope. You would have been scared of it, you would have put you off a little bit. But because the only logic that I told you of, so it was a little bit of a white lie, was we're going to work your upper back, you just went, oh, okay, no, I think I can do this. You're a bit more comfortable with doing it without realizing I'm actually indirectly trying to strengthen up a component further down that is possibly a bit of a problem area. So, a little bit of white lies here and a little white lies here and there. And I think the best thing about this entire kind of aspect of the program, and is almost like the best thing that a PT wants to hear, is you turn to me and went, can we do more? And that's always a phenomenal thing to hear. From you coming in being terrified of doing any exercise to going, can we do more stuff now? Is great, because now you've built confidence within your body. How did that kind of feel going, I can do stuff again?
Yeah, like I say, it's still the confidence thing. I still kind of look at stuff and go, is that going to hurt me? But I think the fact that we've made so much progress in the time that we have, because we only really started end of July, maybe beginning of August time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. How many months is that then? Let's say
about just under 6, maybe.
Me do math good.
Don't ask me.
It's 6 months. And to go from being in huge and massive amounts of pain to being pain-free in 6 months without really any... There's no invasive procedures. I don't do surgery. There is no crazy, real, intense things.
Nope.
It was just getting specific muscle parts fired up and moving your body is an
it.
absolutely beautiful thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it was a case of, okay, you feel confident, you feel good,
Yep.
you now want to do more. What sort of thing do you want to do?
And I think I messaged you and I was like, I want to do this. And you were like, well, what do you want to do? And I just replied, all the things. Which gave you nothing to work with, but everything to work with at the same time.
It was like that scene from Little Britain, I want that one. Like, what's that one, Claire? Like, what is that one? What does this mean? You know, it's like when like your partner says, what do you want for dinner? You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many options, I don't know.
All the things.
And I think I posted a video of me training doing deadlifts, and then your response was, that one.
Yeah.
I want to do that one.
I want to learn that one.
Which for people with lower back pain and lower back problems is probably one of the most riskiest movements you can do, but you love making my life easy. So, with training, we've got your glutes fired up. We've taught you how to properly brace your core through training, how that feels to properly brace your core through training. We've got your upper body a little bit stronger. Now we need to teach you how to deadlift. So deadlift in the nerdier terms is basically a hip hinge, okay? So think of like a door hinge, it's literally just opening and closing. So we need to teach you how to hip hinge, which is a very difficult thing to do because you got really frustrated with learning how to do it. And when you go through like your PT, your personal training qualifications, when you learn how to become a PT, through my course anyway, you know, things may have changed since then, it's about 6-7 years ago. Squats, bench press and deadlifts are your 3 basic movements, and everyone should squat, press up and pull up. These are some of the hardest exercises that you can do. So if you're listening or watching and you're thinking, oh, I can't do those exercises, or I'm so annoyed that I can't do a pull up or I can't do a deadlift, don't be annoyed because they are really challenging exercises to do and really challenging exercises to learn. So they are so difficult. There's a lot of different movement capabilities, or movement components of them. So capabilities, they're components. So take, for example, a deadlift. There is the number one, the start position. So hips low, chest up, bar pulled into your body, lats fired up, abs brace, glutes brace. And if you can't properly brace your core, your back's going to be vulnerable. If you can't brace your glutes, your back's going to be vulnerable. If you can't brace your lats, your back's going to be vulnerable. So it's a very, very challenging movement to do. So we have to very much take our time.
Break it down.
Break it down step by step of how you did it really, and kind of build everything up. How did you feel getting back into deadlifts and doing kind of like a very much, it's a spinal load bearing movement. So how did you feel doing it? Because I know at first you were very apprehensive.
Yes, I still am to this day, but at the same time, I think the drive to want to do it outweighs the worry about doing it. I think for me, I can lift it. I'm not worried about the weight. The weight is fine. I'm not worried about that movement. My worry is about putting the bar down because I worry that I'm going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it's always in my mind. And I've not got over that bit yet.
Yeah. It's not so much the up, it's the placing down the floor. Because I think that's where your back has pinged in the past, has been putting something down.
Yeah.
You know, it's completely understandable. Obviously, it's warranted because you've had the previous experiences. There's going to be a psychological component to it. If you know that putting something down has caused your back to go ping, anytime you do a similar moving pattern, you're going to be more scared of it. So it's building confidence within that area. So I'm going to go on like a bit of a tangent now. I'm going to kind of bring things back to the beginning. I just want to ask you about how did you actually feel starting to weight train? Because I know from like a lot of conversations that I've had with other clients, especially female clients, weight training in the gym, because especially gyms are predominantly masculine, is quite a scary thing to do. How did you feel, weight training? Like, what was that like for you?
I think actually just because of the gym that we train at and the fact that I know quite a lot of people that are down there and it's a very friendly atmosphere, it wasn't as daunting as walking into a massive gym and being with like really big bulky people that have got massive weight. Don't get me wrong, there are still people there that lift massive amounts of weight.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Cheers, thanks. Great. I'm trying my best.
I've not seen you lift any weight, actually.
Do as I say, not as I do, all right? That's the gimmick.
So yeah, not as daunting as I thought it was going to be. And again, that drive to want to do kind of outweighs the self-consciousness about it. I still, like, if it's a really busy day there and you say to me, oh, we're going to go and do this and it's new, I'm like, oh, do we have to do that now?
Yeah.
Is that something we have to do? Because what if I get it really wrong and everyone's like, what's she doing? and that's always in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's quite a natural thing that people can actually relate to, is being scared of people judging you when you're in the gym facility. And I can promise you, and I can promise you two things. Number one, people who you care about aren't looking and they're not judging. And the people that are looking and are judging are normally massive knobs. So there's no point in worrying about how they're feeling. Like I've been a PT now for 7 years, and the judgy looks, the judgy staring isn't as prominent as people tend to think. And if you are in a facility where you do feel like that, leave. Leave. Like, I'm quite lucky to work in a facility, and you're quite lucky to work in a facility where it is an incredibly friendly, chatty environment where everyone really, really wants to uplift each other. And that is like the beautiful side of fitness that I really, really do enjoy. And I think more and more and more facilities should be that welcoming, that comfortable, where everyone chats to each other, everyone welcomes each other, where everyone says hello, where everyone who works there. And one thing that I love about the facility where we are at square one is the fact that we have Gym Dog.
Yep.
We have Rosa with us, and every time you come in for a session, you just get bundled by a big ball of fluff. He is so happy to see you.
Yeah.
And it's actually like a reason why I bring Rosa to work with me. It's not just to save money on doggy daycare, although that does help out quite a bit. It's also, if you feel scared and intimidated, I know that you're going to want something that is comfortable to you. And a gym is very much an alien environment. If you have a big floof ball here, you have a big teddy bear that wants to be your bestest friend in the whole wide world, it makes it so much more comfortable and easy. And I think it helped you out quite a bit, didn't it? Was having Rosa there.
She follows me everywhere, and I always know, she always seems to know if I'm worrying about something as well, which is really sweet. And she'll kind of come over and be like, do you need anything?
Yeah.
Aside from the fact, though, if you turn your back and she bombards you, then you could go flying. So you've just got to have eyes everywhere.
I don't think she's realised that she is like 28 kilos now. I think she still thinks she's a puppy.
Yes.
She is not a bloody puppy.
But to be fair, I've not seen her do it to anyone except me. So maybe it's just a me thing. But
You keep on feeding her. You keep on buying her treats. Every time Claire comes in for a session, she has a new bag of treats for Rosa.
Don't tell everyone.
I'm making everyone else feel bad now. Bring my dog treats.
But no, she's like my emotional support dog. She's always there, so it's nice.
So do you now feel more comfortable in like the gym environment compared to where you first started?
Yes, I think part of that is because whenever I'm there, I'm always with you. So I know that you'll tell me if I'm doing something wrong or if we haven't quite got it right. And you'll be honest with me as well and just be like, yeah, okay, that was okay. But what we need to do is this, 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 and this. Yeah. So I've got the confidence that I know you're watching what I'm doing. I think if I was going in just as me going in, I would have slightly more apprehension just in case I got it wrong and hurt myself.
Yeah. So it's not so much about the training, it's more about, okay, you still, that little bit more worried about hurting. Which, it's natural because even though we're going to take every precaution to make sure you're safe, accidents do happen. And honestly, things go ping. Like I specialise in injuries. And for some reason, my left foot started hurting the other day. Still to this day, don't know why. The pain doesn't hurt, it's gone now. I did some work on it, mobilised it, opened things up a little bit. It's fine. But sometimes things go ping. But the most important thing now is to go, okay, how do we work with this? Because I know there's been a few times throughout our work together where things have gone ping.
Yep.
I think, was it your shoulder was one of them?
Yep, both shoulders. At one point I had, whenever I was kind of putting my arm across my body, there was a huge amount of pain coming down my shoulder. It started off on the right side and then the left side, and everything just felt really tight.
And I remember working with that and you telling me, and my response being, why? What's wrong with you now? And with that one, we then spent some time just opening your shoulders back up again, creating more space. And the thing about training, people think about training and they purely think about muscle gain. They purely think about, I'm going to get bigger shoulders, bigger chest, bigger back. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. You know, a lot of people want to get bigger, stronger, beautiful, fantastic. But what they forget to do is that you can train your body out of pain and you can train your body to do certain things. So if you have pain that is derived from having a tight shoulder blade basically being your scapula, we can now train you to open up that area. So I've worked with a lot of clients, and I almost feel like a bit of a charlatan because I usually give them the same exercise because it just works every single time. If you've got tightness or stiffness between your shoulder blades, so between your scapula, that usually means that your rhomboids, lower trap, upper traps, or lats, something around that kind of area isn't working properly, or is it always too compressed. Single arm row, we lengthen that entire area up. You move better, pain decreases, fantastic.
Yep.
And it's things like that. It's using the right tools for the job. And again, going back to the back issue and hip issue, we used heavy load weight training to get you out of pain, which sounds really counterproductive. What's that, your back hurts? Here's a 10 kilo dumbbell, get squatting. And it sounds ridiculous, but if you do it in the right way, we're getting the right muscle groups fired up to take out the pain, to get the bits fired up and working that are the problem child.
Yep.
And if you can do it in the right way, you can make yourself so much better. But the issue is, I remember warning you about this when we first started, you can make it worse if you pick the wrong exercises, which is where it does get scary.
Yeah.
And it does get a little bit more daunting, which is why you should always ask a professional for help if you are struggling with anything, or you are worried something's going to go bang, something's going to go ping, something's going to go pop, or whatever it may be. All right, enough of that bloody tangent. Back to originally where we were on your new program and things. How do you now feel doing these more riskier exercises? Because in your new program, there are deadlifts. What else have we got in there that's a bit more risky for you?
Again, you've got squats in there, but they are really evil. I quite enjoy those though. Don't tell you.
I think is the enjoyment of actually just being able to do it?
It's partly that, and also quite sadistically, you can feel the muscles that are working.
Yeah.
So you know that you're actually working muscles that you haven't worked for so long because you've been in pain.
You're not doing them and going, oh, I can feel my knee, I can feel my lower back. It's like, oh, I can feel my glutes and quads. I haven't been able to feel that. It's great.
Just conscious of the fact that I've just pointed to my butt.
I was actually having this chat with Claire and my fiance Alice, and I was like, working in the gym is the only facility where you can go, how does your ass feel? And it not be really creepy, and it generally being a genuine, sincere question about your training.
Yep. And it's a question that we probably answer every week. But
how's your butt feeling today?
Also, the hip extensions as well.
Yeah.
That was really scary when we started doing that one, because that's a movement that was terrifying.
I'm actually really glad you brought that one up because I completely forgot to bring that one up. So, 45-degree hip extension. A good movement for building your glutes up, good movement for training your hamstring, and it can be good movement for training your back. The issue is so many people use it wrong, and their back completely dominates the exercise. Because what they do is, rather than hip hinge, we actually use the hip extension to teach you how to hip hinge. Rather than hip hinge, they overextend an arch through their lower back. So their spine does all the work, and then they get loads of tightness in their lower back. And that sometimes creates issues if they've already got back issues. But one thing that people need to remember, need to realize and be comfortable with and confident with is the feeling of back pain in your lower back being normal.
Yeah.
And I don't mean as in something goes ping, ow, that's normal. What I mean is there are muscles in your lower back. So that burning sensation that you'd feel in your bicep when doing bicep curls, when doing, in your glutes when doing split squats, you are going to feel that in your lower back when you do any lower back directed work. And that's completely normal. I think so many people are so scared of working that area. As soon as they feel anything in that area, they go, oh no, that's wrong. And they stop immediately. Not always. Sometimes it is, but not always. Sometimes it's very important to have a strong lower back. If you have a strong lower back and the muscles around that area are strong, everything around is going to be so much more protected.
Yep.
Issues normally occur when something in the pelvis doesn't work, doesn't move, or the core is weak. If the core is really weak, your back has to take an extra bit of load. And I remember doing the 45-degree hip extension with you. I think it took us a long while, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think I took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes on one session to get the first set nailed down. And then subsequent sessions, you probably forgot for the first 5-10 minutes, and we had to get it back in there and then kind of go through it. But it's just that constant repetition, really, of learning how to do the movement and not being afraid to constantly push and learn to do it, because it will take time. Weight training is just it's a skill acquisition. It's learning how to do new movements, and then once you finally got it, you're very happy. The only issue is you are very what's the word? Stubborn, and you want it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got much patience.
So how did it feel being like frustrated?
Every week, I think I come to you and I'm like, well, why can't I do it perfectly the first time that you've shown me how to do it? This is just the worst feeling.
Well, it's and I'm just telling you, look, it's a new thing for you, and you've got to understand, like, I can do it because I've worked in this industry now for like 7, I always get forgetting, 6, 7, 8 years, around that kind of time period, 6, 7, 8 years. So doing some of this stuff is completely normal to me. But also, if I was to do something different, I would be completely alien into it. And you have to understand and respect that. And for you, imagine if I went into a netball game with you. Imagine that. I would have no idea what I'm doing. Not a clue. I can't throw a ball. I have not a clue of what's going on. So think of it like that. And like, even though you know it, it's hard to kind of get ingrained into your brain sometimes.
Yeah. The amount of times I've just gone, oh, like, why can't I do it? I think the worst one at the moment is keeping my elbows still.
Yep.
And it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
It's like not lifting my elbows when I'm doing things.
Yeah.
And you'll occasionally just come past me and just be like, put that down. Put that down. And I'm like, why am I not doing it?
And ultimately, it's your body trying to cheat. And so going to the gym is something that should be normal for us in today's kind of lifestyle, in today's society. But for our bodies, it's not a normal thing. The human body doesn't want to squeeze the tricep. It wants to get the load from point A to point B as quickly and easy as possible. It doesn't want to exert energy. You know, when doing a deadlift, your body doesn't want to go, okay, let's get my glutes fired up, my abs fired up, my lats fired up. It just wants to go the way from point A to point B, get it up there. We have to do abnormal things to get these areas fired up.
Yep.
And it's really trying to teach you the discipline and the strictness to do it. But alongside it, accepting that fatigue kicks in. And maybe the reason why your elbow is moving is because your tricep can't take the load anymore. So now other muscle groups are trying to kick in, and it's trying to understand that and learn learn why things are moving. I think that's a very important thing that people aren't taking the time to do. They just go, your form's wrong, do it better. Without going, okay, maybe the load's too heavy. Maybe your tricep is fatiguing. Maybe your shoulders are really strong and that's trying to dominate the movement. So maybe let's go into a unilateral version. Unilateral meaning one arm at a time. Maybe that way we can be more strict, and that way we can get that tricep moving better, and let's do it like that. And it's kind of trying to alter things to make them work better for you. So we're going to come towards the end of the podcast now. And one thing I want to do in every single podcast is ask one question for each guest. And that one question for each guest is going to be, throughout the entire process so far, what have you learned? Like, what have you learned from all the training, from coming out of back pain? What is your experience? What have you learned?
I think there's a couple of things. I've been thinking about this actually. The first thing is that simple movement can make such a difference.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be huge amounts of movement. It's the smallest thing. And doing it consistently as well. Like, not just thinking, oh, well, it doesn't hurt anymore, let's go on and do all of these amazing things that I can now do. It's keeping that groundwork going and making sure that you're not skipping that. Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's not going, okay, pain's gone now, bye.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I've completed it. It's gone, yes, keep on going with it. It's keep on moving my body and keeping my body fit and healthy. And the beautiful thing that I want to kind of just say to kind of like end the podcast and summarize is, when we first started, back pain could not sit down, could not stand up without being in agony. Today, you are deadlifting and you've booked in to do, what was it? What runs have you got booked in?
We've got Mud Girl in July.
We've got Mud Girl booked in July.
Potentially, although not actually booked in yet, a half marathon in October.
So what Claire doesn't realise, she will be doing the Mud Girl and she will be doing the half marathon. To go from back pain, in agony, borderline 24/7, to being pain-free, deadlifting, running half marathons is an absolutely beautiful story, and you've worked so hard to get where you are today. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa, for being a pest. And thank you very much, everyone, for listening.